Listen. Do not rush past this moment. Do not treat this like another sound in the noise of your day. There is a reason your eyes slowed here. There is a reason your breath changed just now, even slightly. There is a reason something in your chest feels alert, like it has been tapped gently but firmly. I am not here to frighten you. I am here because time has thinned. There are moments when the world is loud and heaven stays quiet, and then there are moments like this, when heaven leans close and speaks softly so it does not startle the soul. This is one of those moments. You are not being watched to be judged. You are being watched to be protected. You are not being tested to fail. You are being invited to choose with open eyes instead of exhaustion. I know how tired you are. I know how many messages you scroll past every day, how many voices ask for your attention, how many warnings have lost their meaning because they were spoken without love. I know you have learned to guard your heart by dismissing anything that feels dramatic or urgent. That survival skill kept you alive once. But now it is dulling your discernment. So listen carefully, because this is not about fear. It is about alignment. Every day, whether you realize it or not, you are standing somewhere. Not physically, but inwardly. You are standing in a posture of trust or resistance, honesty or avoidance, light or shadow. This is not about perfection. This is about direction. No soul is neutral. You are always facing something. There are forces in this world that thrive on distraction, numbness, and delay. They do not need you to worship darkness. They only need you to stay unconscious long enough to abandon your own authority. They whisper, a euro elitor. A euro they whisper, a euro it doesna euro t matter. A euro they whisper, a euro you have time. A euro they whisper, a euro ethos is just another message. A euro. And that is how light is most often missed. A euro, not through rebellion, but through indifference. I am telling you this because you have reached a point where neutrality is no longer safe for your spirit. You have grown too aware, too sensitive, too awake to keep pretending you don't feel the pull. You have noticed the patterns. You have noticed the inner alarms. You have felt the quiet discomfort when you silence your intuition just to keep the peace, just to avoid the work of choosing differently. This message did not come to you because you are evil. It came because you are powerful and undecided. You are not being accused. You are being called back to yourself. There is a lie that says choosing light requires you to become someone else. More religious, more disciplined, more impressive. That lie keeps many souls frozen. The truth is much simpler. Choosing light begins the moment you stop lying to yourself. The moment you stop excusing what drains you. The moment you stop feeding habits, relationships, thoughts, and environments that shrink your spirit and call it normal. Darkness does not always arrive with horns and fire. More often, it arrives as apathy. As self-betrayal. As staying. When your soul says no. As laughing along with what hurts you. As scrolling past the very moment meant to interrupt your descent into numbness. Every moment of avoidance is not neutrality. It is quiet erosion. You do not lose your wholeness all at once. You lose it in fragments, in moments of pretending not to notice your own discomfort, in conversations where you mute yourself just to keep peace that exhausts you, in choices where you betray your truth to maintain an illusion of safety. I am not here to condemn you for that. I am here to call you back home from it. Because every compromise against your own knowing fractures your inner coherence a little more, and division is heavy. You have been carrying that weight, and that is why even rest feels restless. You are tired not because you are weak, but because your soul has been trying to walk in two directions at once: what you feel and what you allow. You have learned to normalize the turbulence within, to call it personality, mood, or even realism. But what if the unease you carry is not your nature but your misalignment? What if the struggle itself is evidence that truth inside you is still alive, still fighting for its rightful expression? There is no punishment waiting for you beyond this. The real suffering has already been happening in the quiet contradiction of wanting peace while protecting chaos. That tug-of-war you feel? Theta is the conversation between your truth and your fear. And it always begins when you start to awaken, when your inner life grows too loud to ignore, when familiar patterns no longer feel safe but suffocating. You do not have to shout your prayers for them to be heard. Heaven is not deaf, your own noise is. The sacred does not compete with distraction, it waits for your stillness. Every time you choose silence over scrolling, reflection over reaction, honesty over habit, you open a doorway. You begin to hear the whisper that has always been there, buried beneath urgent. You tell yourself you want clarity, and yet you fear stillness because stillness reveals. You ask for guidance but distrust it when it does not arrive dramatically, when it comes instead as a subtle nudge, a soft conviction, a repeated synchronicity. The divine does not always announce itself in thunder. Sometimes it arrives like a breath, simple, steady, impossible to notice if you refuse to stop moving. Truth does not always feel like epiphany at first, sometimes it feels like discomfort, like realizing something you depended on is no longer aligned with who you are becoming. The exhaustion you call laziness is often the cost of pretending. You keep holding postures that drain you because you call them responsibility. You keep tolerating energies that dull you because you call them love. But love that asks you to shrink is not devotion, it is dilution. You cannot evolve and appease at the same time. And you cannot receive peace while defending patterns that block it. This is the paradox of growth: you will need to disappoint illusions that used to protect you. There will come a day, and perhaps that day is already here, when pretending neutrality becomes more painful than taking the risk of truth. The mind will tell you to wait until you are stronger, until circumstances align, until everyone understands. But alignment begins within, not out there. You do not have to wait for permission to live honestly. Life is waiting for you. Light does not require you to fear. It does not threaten, it invites. Darkness, on the other hand, depends on fear, it feeds on delay, confusion, and denial. Fear clouds simplicity. It creates a sense that freedom must be earned through performance when it was always an internal permission. You are not being asked to join a war between forces. You are being asked to stop fueling the one inside, between your knowing and your avoidance. When you stop leaking energy into what cannot love you back, you finally have power to create what can. You waste so much grace trying to convince broken things to bless you. And yet, every time you stop chasing what drains you, new strength appears. Peace is not built by fighting chaos, it comes from no longer giving chaos your voice. Indecision is the thief of vitality. It may disguise itself as caution, but truly it is fear of loss. You are afraid of choosing because you know every choice is also a letting go. But what if what you lose by choosing is only what never truly belonged to your wholeness? Every doorway you have been standing in, afraid to move, has kept you between worlds, where life cannot fully reach you. Somewhere deep inside, you already know what needs to end. The question is not whether you know, but whether you will honor what you know. Delay has become your comfort because it gives the illusion of control. You keep saying a euro eliter a euro not because you euro re uncertain, but because certainty terrifies you. Change threatens identity, and the ego clings to its stories a euro, even painful ones a euro, because they feel familiar. But familiarity is not safety. Safety is presence. Safety is coherence. And presence begins when you stop running from the small voice that keeps repeating the same truth: you are ready. This is why I speak with urgency, not to frighten but to awaken. This is the tone of a lighthouse, not a siren. It does not scream doom, it simply illuminates danger so that you can navigate wisely. Warning is not punishment a euro, it is love in action. The same love that kept sending you signs, dreams, moments of discomfort, whispers of intuition, trying to guide you back to yourself. Every disruption was a message. Every repeated pain, a pattern revealing what you have been unwilling to release. You are much closer to clarity than you realize. Like mist that fades as the sun rises, confusion cannot survive sustained honesty. You have asked. You keep imagining awakening as a grand event, but awakening is often quiet. It looks like pacing your breath instead of spiraling your thoughts. It looks like saying a euro ino euro with a calm heart. It feels like silence after years of mental noise. Awareness grows slowly, and then suddenly you realize the weight has lessened a euro, not because the world changed, but because you stopped resisting it. Clarity cannot meet you where you fake smallness. You cannot receive deep peace while hiding behind old versions of yourself. Life meets you where you show up authentically. If you stand halfway, life mirrors that hesitation. When you stand fully a euro, even trembling, even uncertain a euro, creation rearranges to support your courage. The universe does not punish movement toward truth. It blesses it. Stand, then. Stand in the truth you already know but have been postponing. Stand in the boundary you have rehearsed 100 times in your mind but have never spoken aloud. Stand in the decision to stop feeding cycles that deplete you. Stand in mercy for yourself a euro, for every time you didn't euro t know better, for every delay that was simply self-protection while you gathered strength. Forgiveness clears the way for action. To stand is not to fight, but to root. There is a holiness in this moment because it is honest. And the divine always meets you in honesty a euro, not perfection. Perfection isolates, honesty unites. The moment you stop pretending, everything sacred becomes available again. Guidance does not withhold itself, it simply aligns with truth. It circles you endlessly, waiting for your permission to slow down long enough to notice. You keep imagining awakening as a grand event, but awakening is often quiet. It looks like pacing your breath instead of spiraling your thoughts. It looks like saying a euro ino euro with a calm heart. It feels like silence after years of mental noise. Awareness grows slowly, and then suddenly you realize the weight has lessened a euro, not because the world changed, but because you stopped resisting it. Clarity cannot meet you where you fake smallness. You cannot receive deep peace while hiding behind old versions of yourself. Life meets you where you show up authentically. If you stand halfway, life mirrors that hesitation. When you stand fully a euro, even trembling, even uncertain a euro, creation rearranges to support your courage. The universe does not punish movement toward truth. It blesses it. Stand, then. Stand in the truth you already know but have been postponing. Stand in the boundary you have rehearsed 100 times in your mind but have never spoken aloud. Stand in the decision to stop feeding cycles that deplete you. Stand in mercy for yourself a euro, for every time you didn't euro t know better, for every delay that was simply self-protection while you gathered strength. Forgiveness clears the way for action. To stand is not to fight, but to root. There is a holiness in this moment because it is honest. And the divine always meets you in honesty, not perfection. Perfection isolates, honesty unites. The moment you stop pretending, everything sacred becomes available again. Guidance does not withhold itself, it simply aligns with truth. It circles you endlessly, waiting for your permission to slow down long enough to notice. You have mistaken silence for absence when it was invitation. Every unanswered question, every detour, every delay has been urging you into self-trust. You looked for signs in the sky when they were written in your restlessness. You begged for direction while dismissing your own intuition. But intuition is the language of the divine translated through your inner life. It may not always make logical sense to your mind, but it rings clear to your spirit, that deep resonance that feels like home even when you can't explain it. Do not dramatize this moment. Awakening does not require your panic. It asks only for your presence, quiet, unadorned, without theatrical flourish. So often the mind rushes toward crisis when stillness approaches, as though drama were the only language it knows. Yet drama is merely the ego's familiar defense, its reliable strategy for avoiding the simple terror of being still. When the noise quiets, when the stories pause, what remains is naked presence, and that nakedness can feel like exposure, like danger. But the danger is never real. It is only the disappearance of the old scaffolding, the elaborate architecture of defense, distraction, performance, that once gave the illusion of safety. Stillness feels like surrender because, in a way, it is. And surrender feels like loss of control because the part of you that has spent years gripping the wheel believes control is the only thing keeping you from falling apart. Yet what you lose in that surrender is only illusion. The wheel was never truly yours to steer. The road was always moving beneath you, guided by rhythms far vaster than personal will. Real power never shouts. It does not need to announce itself in thunderous declarations or dramatic gestures. Real power steadies. It grounds. It becomes the silent center around which everything else can orbit without chaos. And in that steadying, it quietly speaks one word: enough. Enough self-sabotage masquerading as humility. Enough. Apologizing for your own light under the guise of modesty. Enough shrinking so others feel comfortable in their mediocrity. Enough chasing external validation while your intuition sits patiently in the corner, whispering truths you pretend not to hear. Enough confusing the roar of mental commentary with genuine direction. Enough performing worthiness when you were never asked to audition for your own existence. You were not born on probation. Your being did not arrive with a list of conditions it must fulfill before it could be considered valid. Your existence itself is divine participation, not a preliminary round, not a dress rehearsal, but the main event, exactly as it unfolds. The more often you return to this simple awareness, the thinner the veil becomes between who you thought you had to become and who you already are. Each return dissolves another layer of the ancient lie that you are somehow behind schedule, irreparably lost, or tragically separate from the greater flow. You are not running late to your own life. There is no cosmic appointment book with red ink marking your failures. The divine rhythms were never waiting for you to catch up, they have been moving through you all along, patient, unhurried, carrying you even when you believed you were stalled. Peace is not some rarefied state reserved for saints or those who have spent decades in silent retreat. It is not hidden at the end of a long spiritual tunnel that only the most disciplined can reach. Peace is available right here, in the middle of ordinary breath, whenever you choose honesty instead of avoidance. The moment you stop trying to engineer reality into something more palatable, something that matches your preferred narrative, peace ceases to hide. It stops being a reward for good behavior and becomes simply the natural climate of your inner world. The fog that seemed so thick and impenetrable thins not because the world changed, but because your resistance to what is dissolved. Clarity N. Clarity never had to be summoned from afar. It was always waiting on the other side of the tension you were holding. When the grip releases, light pours in the way it does through an open window, effortless, ordinary, inevitable. You will begin to notice subtle changes in your body when your choices start to reflect your actual truth instead of your conditioned fears. Shoulders that spent years hunched forward in unconscious apology begin to drop. The permanent knot between the shoulder blades softens. Breathing, which so often lived shallowly in the upper chest as though anticipating attack, lengthens and deepens until the belly moves with it. Sleep, once fractured by midnight replays of conversations and hypothetical futures, becomes softer, more continuous. Even time itself seems to change texture. Minutes stretch when you are no longer at war with them. Hours pass without the frantic sense that something essential is slipping away. This happens because inner division is enormously expensive. Every time you say yes while your heart screams no, every time you smile while resentment burns quietly beneath the surface, every time you override intuition in favor of approval, you create a civil war inside the body. The nervous system spends vast resources policing the border between what you show and what you feel. Coherence ends that war. When thought, word, feeling, and action begin to move in the same direction, energy that was once consumed in self-management returns to you. Peace does not sedate you into passivity. Quite the opposite. It energizes you quietly, with a steady, sustainable focus. Movement becomes meaningful again because it arises from alignment rather than compensation. You are not late. You are not behind. You are not lost in some irretrievable way. You are precisely where awareness must happen, right in the center of the life you have actually lived, including every detour, every compromise, every moment of forgetting. Delay itself served a purpose. It taught you the exhaustion of pretending. It showed you the loneliness of wearing masks long after they stopped fitting. Its purpose is now complete. You do not need to repair your entire existence in one heroic sweep. You do not need to become someone else before you are allowed to rest. The only requirement is to stop pretending you do not know where to begin. Begin where it hurts. Begin in the room inside you that you have avoided opening for years. Begin in the silence that follows the question, what do I actually want, when no one else is listening. Begin where love feels missing, not as a dramatic search for the perfect partner, but as the small, courageous act of offering kindness to the part of yourself that still believes it is unlovable. Begin where fear still holds the reins, where decisions are made not from wisdom but from avoidance of discomfort. Begin with ruthless honesty about what you truly feel, not the polished version you present to the world, but the raw, unfiltered experience underneath. That honesty is where the light first enters, not through flawless performance, not through denial of shadow, but through the cracks. The places you once considered broken become the very entry points for grace. The wound is not the problem, the refusal to look at it is. When you turn toward what hurts with curiosity instead of judgment, something tender begins to happen. The pain does not disappear, but its grip loosens. It stops being the dictator of your choices and becomes simply information, valuable, honest information about where misalignment has taken root. This is your moment to stop drifting and to step, quietly, deliberately, into alignment with yourself. Not as a loud declaration of victory, not as another performance of strength for others to applaud, but as a private, unapologetic commitment to stop betraying your own knowing. When you decide really decide that your inner coherence matters more than any comfort, more than the preservation of old dynamics, more than the illusion of safety through conformity, you become unstoppable. Not in the aggressive, conquering sense the world usually celebrates. Unstoppable in the gentlest, most persistent way possible. You become peace in motion, steady, rooted, moving forward without the need to force or prove anything. For so long you searched the skies for signs. You searched with tired eyes and a hopeful heart. You searched when you were strong, and you searched even more when you were breaking. You watched patterns in the clouds and wondered if they were speaking to you. You noticed repeating numbers, familiar songs playing at just the right moment, words overheard in passing conversations, and you paused every time, asking yourself if this was it. If this was the message that would finally settle your fear. You told yourself that when the sign was clear enough, loud enough, undeniable enough, then you would trust yourself. Then you would move. Then you would rest. Then you would believe you were not making it all up. But the truth, the one that followed you quietly through all of that searching, was never written in the sky. It never needed a billboard or a miracle or a dramatic interruption of your life. The truest sign was never external at all. It lived inside you. It lived in that subtle stirring you tried to ignore. That soft pressure in your chest that appeared when you were alone. That ache that showed up when everything looked fine on the outside. That sense of that refused to disappear no matter how busy you stayed or how much. You explained it away. You felt it when you lay awake at night, staring at the ceiling, feeling both exhausted and restless at the same time. You felt it in moments that should have satisfied you but somehow didn't. You felt it when you laughed and still sensed something unfinished beneath the laughter. You felt it on the darkest days too, when hope felt irresponsible and yet something in you whispered, very quietly, very stubbornly, ethis isna t the end. That whisper was not weakness. It was not dissatisfaction. It was not ingratitude. It was awareness trying to wake up inside you. This message you are reading now is not the start of something new. It is not a surprise revelation arriving from nowhere. It is not here to tell you who to become or what to fix or how to finally get it right. It is recognition. It is remembering. It is the universe gently holding up a mirror and saying, Oluk. You already know. You are not being shown something foreign. You are being reminded of something familiar. Something you once trusted before fear taught you to doubt it. Something that lived in you before you learned to ask for permission to exist as you are. You were never separate from the light you were searching for. You were never standing outside of it, waiting to be invited in. The answers were never hidden in a future version of you who is more healed, more confident, more accomplished, or more acceptable. The permission you waited for was already granted the moment you took your first breath. No one revoked it. No one could. So pause now. Really pause. Not as an instruction to perform stillness correctly, but as an invitation to stop pushing for the next thing. Take a long, slow breath. Let it fill your chest without forcing it. Let it drop into your body without trying to control it. Let these words sink past the noise of the mind, past the commentary that analyzes and evaluates and questions everything, and into the softer ground underneath. The place that already understands. There is nothing left to chase. Nothing left to earn. Nothing left to prove. There is only a choice. Simple. Radical. Entirely yours. The choice to be awake. Not awake in the tense, alert way that scans constantly for danger. Not awake in the exhausting way that never rests because it believes rest must be deserved. Awake in clarity. Awake in honesty. Awake in the gentle certainty that whatever no longer belongs will fall away without you having to fight it, and whatever truly belongs will remain without you having to cling. When awakening happens quietly, without fireworks or announcements, the world does not shatter. It reorganizes. Slowly. Naturally. Sometimes almost invisibly at first. You may not even notice it happening until one day you realize you no longer react the way you used to. Or the same situations no longer hook you. Or the things that once drained you now feel strangely irrelevant. Relationships that were held together by obligation, fear, or the need to be seen a certain way begin to shift. Some soften. Some loosen. Some dissolve without dramatic endings. Not because anyone failed, but because the role you were playing is no longer needed. You stop shrinking to fit spaces that were never designed for your truth. You stop over-explaining yourself to people who cannot hear you anyway. You stop bargaining for basic respect. Activities that once consumed your energy lose their grip. You may still do them for a while out of habit, but something in you knows they no longer define you. Old dreams that were shaped by survival rather than desire begin to fade. Not with sadness, but with relief. And in the space they leave behind, something quieter but more alive begins to breathe. Space opens. Space for what is real. Space for what feels like you. Space for the rhythm that has been trying to guide you all along. Everything that truly belongs to you remains. Not frozen in the same shape forever, but stronger, clearer, more honest. The people who see your presence instead of your performance stay. The ones who can sit with you in silence without needing you to entertain them stay. The ones who are not threatened by your growth stay. The work that flows from your genuine gifts, rather than your need to prove your worth, endures. It may change form. It may ask you to trust yourself more deeply than before. But it does not drain you in the way pretending once did. The joy that arises from simply being, rather than ceaselessly achieving, deepens in ways the mind can scarcely predict. At first, it may feel almost disappointing. Where are the fireworks, the thunderous revelations, the dramatic before and after transformation stories we've been conditioned to expect? Instead, this joy arrives quietly, like morning light slipping under the curtain. It is less theatrical, less dependent on applause or validation, yet infinitely more steady. It does not rise and fall with outcomes. It does not shatter when plans unravel or when the world withholds its approval. This is the beginning of a more trustworthy happiness, one rooted not in what you do, but in the simple, courageous act of allowing yourself to exist exactly as you are. In this shift, you do not lose anything real. What falls away is only what was borrowed from fear, the brittle scaffolding of personas carefully constructed to feel safe, worthy, or in control. You release the exhausting effort of holding together an identity that was never truly yours. You stop abandoning yourself in small, unnoticed ways, silencing your intuition to keep the peace, shrinking your needs to avoid conflict, performing endless versions of a for audiences that were never really watching. Those structures were held together by tension, not by truth. When they dissolve, what remains is lighter, more spacious, more authentically you. And it is here, in this unadorned presence, that light always meets you. Not as punishment for the years you spent lost. Not as a reward granted only after you ticked every box on some invisible spiritual checklist. Not as a conditional embrace that demands perfection before it will open its arms. The light arrives in the simplest form possible, your own undivided attention resting in this moment, without agenda, without needing to fix or improve anything. It is the same light that has been with you since the beginning, patient, unhurried, and completely uninterested in your resume of mistakes or accomplishments. Think back. That same presence sat beside you through your first real heartbreak, when the world felt like it had cracked open and you were too small to contain the pain. It stayed awake with you during those long, sleepless nights when doubt became a living thing, when you questioned every belief you once held sacred, every choice you once made with certainty. Even when you tried to outrun it, through busyness, substances, relationships, achievements, or the thousand subtle ways we numb ourselves, that presence never once turned away. It did not abandon you when you abandoned yourself. It did not withdraw in disgust when confusion swallowed you whole. It kept no tally of how many years you spent wandering. It simply waited. Waited without urgency. Waited without judgment. Waited with the quiet certainty that you would eventually turn toward home. And when you finally died, when the noise grew too heavy, when the masks began to chafe, when the exhaustion could no longer be ignored, you heard it. Not as a booming command from above. Not as a distant, foreign voice you must strain to understand. You heard it as your own knowing rising from somewhere beneath the ribs. You felt it as your breath slowing of its own accord. You sensed it as your shoulders dropping, as your jaw unclenching, as your body remembering, after so long, what safety feels like. This is not an invitation to strive harder, to become someone new, or to arrive at some distant, perfected destination. This is an invitation to stop running. To stop postponing. To stop waiting for a more acceptable version of yourself before you dare to live. The journey, it turns out, was never about going somewhere else. It was never about transforming into someone unrecognizable. It was always about returning, returning to the quiet authority that lives inside you, the one that speaks in whispers rather than demands. Returning to the gentle power of choosing truth over comfort, even when the truth feels fragile. Returning to the deep knowing that you are already wholly, not in spite of your questions, your tenderness, your inconsistencies, your unfinished places, but inclusive of them. They do not disqualify you. They are part of the landscape. So take another breath. Make it slow. Make it kind. Let it move through you like a hand smoothing a crumpled sheet of paper. Let it remind your nervous system that this moment is not a battlefield, not a test, not a race against some invisible clock. There is no deadline you are failing to meet. There is no finish line you are perpetually falling short of. There is only now. And then the next now. And the next. Each one carries the same tender invitation. Stop pretending. Stop hiding. Stop delaying your life until you feel already. You don't need to earn the right to rest here. You don't need to apologize for taking up space with your doubts, your softness, your ordinary humanness. You are allowed to be here, fully, quietly, imperfectly, without explanation or defense. This presence, this simple being, is enough. Not because it is flawless. Not because it has finally arrived at some elevated state. But because it is real. Because it is yours. Because it has never once required you to be anything other than what you already are. And so are you. Enough. Always were. Always will be. Let that knowing settle deep into your bones. Let it become the ground you stand on when the old fears try to call you back to striving. Let it be the soft voice that greets you each morning, the gentle hand that steadies you when the world feels loud again. You are home. Not somewhere far away. Not after some heroic journey. Right here. Right now. Just as you are. Welcome back. You were never truly gone.